Hey folks, it's Dave here, and today I'm taking a look at Momentum Football from Downey Games. Now, this is very, very similar to Game Winning Drive, and I played the entire 79-80 playoffs of Game Winning Drive, and thanks everybody that tuned in. That was an absolute blast, that project. So I wanted to check out this game because I heard it was very similar. So I'm going to run you through a little bit of gameplay, a little of the setup, so you can see how this actually plays. Now, I've only played a handful of games, so I'm still kind of slow, and it's a lot more in-depth in game-winning drive, so I'm still figuring it out, so to speak. But I wanted to kind of show you this video so we can compare and contrast. So first thing first is you do need to buy the parts, and the parts are basically the instruction manual that I printed out here in full color. You get your score sheets and the whole bit. So that is the parts. And then you need to buy the individual seasons, all right? So I picked up the 1980 season here, so I got the 80 Redskins and the 80 Seahawks that I printed out in full color I'll be using today. And the other thing is that not only do you have to buy the parts separate and then the seasons was Game Winning Drive. If you buy the season, you get everything. There's a lot less seasons here in Momentum Football. And I think that is because, as you can see, we have all the players here. So there's a lot more work involved. It's not so much a team thing as it is player stats. So that's the first thing I noticed. So let me run you through a couple of things. So as you know, when you play Game Winning Drive, you have your score sheet here, and you set it up beforehand. You look at your teams, you write down your roles, and then once you set it up, it takes 2 or 3 minutes to set it up. You're done, and you can rip through the game. Here, there's very, very little setup, and everything takes place in the game, and that's where the meat and potatoes are. So first things first, there is one setup that you need to do before you play the game. So if we take a look here at the Washington offense and defense, so they have ratings of E and B, okay? So I wrote that down for the home team, E and B. Then I went over here and took Seattle, D and C, so D and C. So what you do, and this is really the only setup that you have, you come over here to this chart, okay? This is the defensive control factor chart. And so what happens is, so let's go with the visitor first. So they have a D offense, and they're playing a B defense. So a D offense playing a B defense. So you write down these numbers, 2 to 6 and 11 to 12. So 2, 6, and 11 to 12. So now on Washington, their offense is E, even with Theismann. So you have Theismann versus Zorn today. Okay, so they're E playing a C defense. So ironically, it's the exact same numbers. So 2 to 6 and 11 to 12. And what's going to happen is on the initial roll, if you roll these numbers, okay, you will read from the defensive chart rather than the offense. So let's just say Seattle's on offense, Washington's defense rolls a 4. So now, instead of rolling on the Seattle offensive drive, you will roll from the Washington defensive chart. Now, as you can see, there's a lot more punts here than the Seattle offense has, so it's weighted a little bit more in favor of the defense. That's not always the case. Now, these are bad teams. Washington 6 and 10, Seattle 4 and 12. So I picked a couple of bums here today to kind of do our demo. But it's not always the case. But in most cases, the defensive chart is going to be in favor of the defense. So that's where that defensive control factor comes in. So that's different than game-winning drive. Also here is the momentum factor. You can see that we have a 0, and then we have +1 and +2, and then a -1 and a -2. So the pluses are considered the home team, and the defenses are considered the minuses. And according to the instructions, 0 is a tie. The one thing I'm not too sure of, though, is where to start it during the game. Because if you look here, Washington has a 0 advantage at home, whereas Seattle, for some reason in the Kingdom, the 12th man, look here, they're -2. So it says to start the game at 0, except if there's a -2. So that's my first confusion. Not really 100% sure if I start the momentum at 0 or if I go to the home field advantage chart on the home team. So in this case, would be 0 no matter what. But if we were in Seattle, do I start at -2? I'm not really sure, okay? But for the sake of this argument, so we're going to put the X here. So the momentum starts here at 0. Okay, and the momentum factors in for the defense control factor. So if a 7 is rolled, okay, whoever has the momentum gets the roll, if you follow that. Okay, so it just gives you an extra number here if you're on defense, if you have the momentum. And this momentum, I played a few games, it really does shift back and forth. Now, momentum swings on turnovers, on sacks, on key plays, on points scored, except for field goals. Okay, more later on that. So the momentum will shift back and forth during the game usually. The few games I played, it's really zigzag, and it's really been kind of neat. Okay, so now I still need to refer to my instructions here, so I'm going to have these off to the side because there's a lot going on in this game. Okay, so let's kick things off. So the first thing you do, and the first thing you'll notice, is that we have a game clock. Game-winning drive is drive by drive. You get 5 drives each for the half, and then 5 more each in the half for a total of 20, and your game is done. Here, we roll, so you could actually end up with more or less than 5 possessions in a half. Okay, so I like to do is roll for the kickoff first, okay? So that's my Washington dice, and that's my Seattle dice. Now, they tell you to use red and white and blue and yellow, but for my game here, I like to use the team colors, dark being obviously the 10s. All right, so we're going to have Washington and Seattle, the coin toss, and Washington will receive. Okay, so this is how I do it. So now neither team has a kickoff for TD return, so we don't even bother with that. So what the instruction tell us to do is mark off the 15 on the kickoff, okay? And now we get into the first play. So Washington with the ball the first quarter. So what you need to do is roll the time. Okay, so you roll all 4 dice. No matter what color they are, you roll all 4. Make sure they're different colors. You take the highest and the lowest and add them. So that's 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So 1240. So what actually happens is you're kind of working this backwards. So the Washington drive started after the kickoff and it ended at 1240. Okay, so now we're going to see how the Washington drive turned out. So you can see it kind of goes a little bit backwards. So what I like to do is now we need to roll for the defensive control factor. They tell you to roll all 4 at the same time. I like to roll the defense first to see where I'm going to read from. So Seattle's going to roll. Now a tie here goes to the home team. So right now Washington has the momentum. So if Seattle rolls a 2 to a 6 or 11 to 12, we'll read from the defensive chart. So here we go. So Seattle defense rolls. And they roll a 6, okay? So we will read from the Seattle defensive chart. So I will pull that out so we can look at that. So this is where we're going to read from. So this is now the Washington offense. So they roll a 63. So a 63 is a TD pass. So right now, Washington scores with a TD pass, and they're up 6-0, okay? Now, what you're supposed to do here is in the instruction manual over here, if I go to my TD pass, okay, so the offensive team scored a passing touchdown. Roll all 4 dice, and this tells you, how long the TD was, if you want to put that in there. So it says, if you roll doubles, it's a long play. Otherwise, it rolls. Now, I don't like this. Combine this all in 3 to 11 yards in the pass. That's really not a long pass. So I need to come up with my own way of rolling dice. So if I roll all this here, okay, there's no doubles. So I think I just add them all together. And what's that, 9? It's a 12-yard pass. It doesn't allow for anything long. It really doesn't. I mean, so as far as rolling for the stats, I really don't do that because I just don't like it. I don't think it's really realistic. I think even the runs, you can't really have a run longer than 7 or 8 yards for a touchdown. So I need to find a better way to handle that. But that's what you would do, is you would roll the dice according to the instructions and get the length. So if you want to play it by the book, that's how you do it, okay? But right now, we're going to kick the point. And so much like game-winning drive, you come over here. Mark Mosley's going to kick the point. So 11 to 62 is good for the extra point. So 11 to 62. So Mosley comes in, and with a 12, that easily goes through. So I like to put good here. And so right off the bat, it's 7-0 for Washington. Now, with the score, momentum moves. So momentum shifts one to the Washington side because of the score, if you followed that. Okay, so that's where the momentum comes into play. So now what we need to do, so now it's Detroit's ball. They do not have a kickoff return, so Detroit gets the ball. So now we need to roll the time. Okay, so we're going to roll the time. Take the highest and the lowest. So we have a 6 and a 1. So we're going to count off 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So we got 10:20. So Detroit got the ball for almost 2 minutes and 20 seconds. And so now we're going to see how their drive worked out. So we roll the Washington defense. I call it the defense first. Okay, and that is a 4. So again, 2 to 6, we go to the defensive chart. So we got a 4. So Seattle will work from the Washington defensive chart. So here it is right here. So this is Seattle's drive. So they roll a 26. A 26 is a sack. Okay, so Washington defense sacked the quarterback. Now you can roll. Now they didn't keep sacks back then, but in the modern season there would be a sack number to see who got it. So you could actually roll from the fumble to see who got the sack just for fun. So 44. So we'll say, okay, he was sacked by Coy Bacon. Gets the sack, so the sack by Bacon. You can even roll to see how long, how much yardage they lost. So we'll roll, and Seattle lost 3 yards on the sack. Okay, so that's a sack by Bacon on Zorn for a 3-yard loss. Again, it's kind of all cosmetic. Okay, on a sack, if we look here in the rules, I just want to kind of show you as we go along. A sack is a momentum-changing play. Okay, so and it's an automatic punt. So momentum now goes even more left for Washington because they got a TD pass and a sack. Okay, that's as far as it'll go though, but they did get a TD pass and a sack. So now Detroit will kick back to Washington. Oh, that was first quarter. What was I doing? First quarter. Okay, now there's no punt return, so we're just going to roll now. So now we need to roll time. So here's the time. It's 5 and 3 are the highest and lowest, so now we kick off 8. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So now we get 7:40. So Washington starts the drive right after the sack, and it's down to 7:40 to play in the quarter. So now we got to see which chart they're going to roll off of. Okay. So Detroit defense is a 3. So we're going to roll from the defense. I get a funny feeling we're going to be rolling from the defensive chart a lot today. All right, so Washington on offense right now is going to roll off the defensive drive for Seattle. And 66, boy, they did it again. They're rolling high numbers. So that's a touchdown pass. So it's another touchdown pass. Now, what I did forget is that you can actually roll to see who got the pass as well as how long it was. So let's roll here for touchdown. So I apologize. I forgot to do that on the first one. So we rolled a 22. So on the TD pass, it was Theismann to Clarence Harmon. Okay. Now, I always start with a starting quarterback, but if you wanted to before the game, you could roll to see who starts. Okay, but I always start with the name guys. Again, over here on the Seahawks, if you wanted to, you could, instead of Zorn, you could roll to see if this guy starts. And again, this guy's ratings are terrible, and there's no key pass plays at all with a backup. So you want to go with your starter. So that's what I did today. But if you want, there is the option for that. So again, so if I roll the TD pass and I roll the 22, my TD pass is Harmon with a catch. And again, if you wanted to, you could roll more dice to figure out how long the pass was. Yeah, again, I don't like to do that. Just myself. I don't like how that comes out. I need to figure out a way to roll dice and get better numbers. All right, so point after attempt is a 55. The point after for Mosley is good. So is good and is now 0 to 14. Okay. Now, so we started with momentum at 0. The TD pass moved it here. The sack moved it here. The touchdown cannot move it anymore. Okay, that's as far as it goes. So Washington is in full control. Detroit gets the ball back here in the first quarter, and let's see where their drive is going to end. So right now it's 14-0 Washington. So let's roll for time. Okay. Now, when you roll these here, there is some options here for rare plays, as you see. So if you were to roll all ones, all twos, all threes, all fours, all fives, or all sixes, you get a rare play here, and then you would roll again to see what happens. So there are chances for rare plays when you roll on the clock, okay? So we got a 6 and a 2, so we're going to run off 8. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Okay, so 5 minutes. So Detroit gets the ball, and they're going to run about 2.5 minutes off the clock. So now we're going to roll for defense. So Washington now rolls for defense. It's a 7. Now you can see the 7 goes to whoever has the momentum. So because Washington clearly has the momentum, Seattle's going to have to read from the Washington defensive chart again. So I keep writing D for Detroit. You know, that's S for Seattle. I'm sorry about that. I was playing Detroit early. So that is an S for Seattle, not Detroit. My bad. Having a tough day here. So Seattle rolls a 36, and that is a punt. So Seattle will punt that away. Momentum doesn't change. Washington gets the ball back. And now we need to roll on time. Now, there's no punt return, so we're not even going to bother with that. So now we roll for time. And 6 is the high, 1 is the low, 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So 2:40. So they get the ball back late here in the first quarter. Okay. Now, there is still a chance if they rolled low numbers that there would be a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, it's a 6th possession here. So, again, as you can see, compared to game-winning drive, there's a chance for more or less possessions in a quarter. Okay, so this is just kind of how the gameplay goes. Now, there are some special things like key penalties, and then over here you got your key runs and key passes. So what would happen is, let's just say you rolled a key pass, okay? So Theismann rolls a key pass. So you go to your key pass chart and see what happened. So you roll a 54. So actually, that didn't turn out well. So the key pass results in a punt. It was a nice catch, but you didn't get the first down, okay? So if you were to roll something different, if you roll a 33, you'd get a first down. First down, basically, you roll again. So what you would do with a first down, you would roll all your dice and take the lowest to count time, okay? Because it's kind of a continuation of the drive. So it would only be 3 ticks off the clock, and then the drive would continue. You would roll the Seattle defense dice, 9, nope, now we would roll from the Washington offense with a 2, so they would fumble, if you followed that real quick. So that's how the key plays. The key run is the same thing. You would roll to see who has it. So 11 of 43 is Wilbur Jackson. Clarence Harmon is the other one, and then you would roll again to see what the result was, okay? And the same with the key reception. Roll to see who the receiver is, and roll to see the results, okay? If you notice here, field goals are field goal attempts now. They're not good or bad until you roll. So then you would go down here and look, and there's even a chance to get blocked. Some people have blocked field goals, okay? And then you would have to roll for that, okay? This guy over here for Seattle with punt, he actually has a chance to get it blocked. You'd have to roll 11 and then a 66 to have it blocked, okay? If the team has a return on, okay, so Seattle does have a punt return, you would roll to see if there was a return on the kick. So if you didn't roll 33 to 66, he kicked it out of bounds. Okay, so I'm kind of running through a few things here, but as you can see, there's a lot more here than there is with game-winning drive. Now, there are a couple special rules, so if we get into the second quarter and we get down low here, you can run a hurry-up offense, and what you would do is roll for time and take the 2 lowest dice. Okay, so now, well, that didn't work out too well. It's still 7, but I mean, you would take the 2 lowest dice rolls in a hurry-up offense situation. There's also a chance to go for it on 4th down. If you do, you basically roll, and anything that is not a score is considered a failed 4th down attempt. There's also a chance for onside kicks in the whole bit, and that's all in the instructions there. But this is just some basic gameplay on how you would play this momentum football game, okay? So again, everything, it's a little bit bigger footprint because you do have to have your charts here, and you do have to have, instructions handy over here on the side because there's a lot going on. Now, when the game ends, okay, you get all the way down to the end here, and the final score is 17 to 14 or whatever it is. When the game ends, okay, all these other things come into play. So you have these defensive adjustments here, and a few other things on this chart. Okay, these stats here, you could actually go in after the game, and let me see if I can show you this here, and you could actually get full game stats. Okay, so you have this sheet here called Compiling Game Stats, and there's a lot of pages here. Okay, these are all pages to show you how to get all your stats. So after the game, you could have something that looks like this with all your stats. In fact, they give you sheets like this. I think I have one here. Hang on. And these sheets here actually keep track of your individual player stats. Oh, I gotta find them. 1 second. I might have got rid of them because I didn't want. Oh, here they are. So you get. I'm not going to use this, I don't think. But see here. So after the game, you would use all those instructions and fill this out. So you get, this is for the home team. There's one for the visitor. So when you're done, you could have this with your rushing yardage, your receiving yardage, your passing yardage, any special teams. So you'd combine what was in the game to all these artificial rolls at the end of the game to give you stats if you wanted to. So all that is there in this game if you want to get. So as you can see, it's much, much deeper than Game-Winning Drive if you want to get really deep into it. So anyway, so that's a quick look here at Momentum Football. Hopefully I didn't confuse you too much, because it is a lot going on in here. I got to say, compared to Game-Winning Drive, there's a lot going on. There's a lot that I do like, and I will talk about that in my compare and contrast video, hopefully coming up later on today or tomorrow. So I'm Dave. I hope you like this. Thanks for tuning in. Have a good day.